All right, so what I have here, can you guys all see this donation station?
Yes.
Beautiful. So it's not the best looking thing in the world, but it's almost functional. It is deployed. So the last couple of weeks we've been using Netlify to deploy, and this is just use a very basic Netlify deploy I used today, and there's nothing added to it, no extra features. We're going to be using functions today. There's no auth on here though, but we cover that in the last weeks if you check in the channel. And essentially what this does is I've chosen two charities, and I can have a user select how much they wish to donate to them. They can hit contribute, gives them their total, and we can start filling it in. This does autofill so I'm just gonna not reveal my address and just put here, there you go. If you're watching the recording, I'm sure you can pause that and check out my real address, but there we go. Please don't. I don't think there's any authentication on here at the moment. Let's confirm payment. All it does is console log submitting payment. Pretty useless if you're trying to monetize this. It's definitely not helpful for my charities, at least. Hi, Vanessa. So let's my aim for today is to get this actually functioning. So let's close this down and let's head to our code. So I'll give you a very brief tour of what we've got at the moment. It's not particularly extensive. We are using React hooks. If anyone's got questions about React hooks, please reserve them for Slack or direct them to private message Alice, as she's here. I don't know, she's sorry, I'm pimping you out, Alice. And we've got, what other cool things are we doing in here? I was importing quite a few components, so I use this pattern where I've got an index.js in components, and I'm bringing in everything else in that folder here, and then just chucking it all out as one. Just saves me having each of these on a new line. I thought that was quite fun. Otherwise, there's nothing particularly exciting going on in here, just what you might expect to set up this application. So let's start our dev server. So I'm going to use Netlify dev. Again, any questions about Netlify dev, please refer to last week's recording. I'm going to start that up. And of course it opened in the wrong one. Oh, it opened in the wrong one, and it also failed to compile. That's exciting. It's given me a useful error. Unexpected token. Oh, yeah, fair enough. Postcode. Failed terminal opening. Excellent. You also, where do your lovely faces go? Oh, there you go. I prefer to be able to see you. Okay, cool. So that's running on 8888, and it should be exactly the same. As I said, there's nothing actually added here at all. All right, cool. So we know we want to use Stripe, so let's get Stripe involved. So what packages are we going to be using? Do you know what? I know I said that we were going to start our server, but let's just get out of it straight away. No, don't do that. All right, so what do we need? Okay, so we actually need 3 libraries today, but they're all related to Stripe. We're going to need Stripe itself, and we're going to be using it in our serverless function, and that's going to be handling our actual secrets. So we don't really want that in React, and then we want to be able to handle our Stripe business. So we want Stripe, and then they've got a library called Stripe.js, and then we also want Stripe, it's called React Stripe.js. Is it JS in the end? Yes. So yeah, I think that's all we need. Let's bring those in. And the first thing I want to do is actually get access to Stripe as a library. So let's, I'm gonna wrap my whole app in this. Obviously, if it's quite a small app, if you just want a specific area of your app, which is probably more likely to be using Stripe, then you can put this lower down. I'm just going to put it in index.js. And once we've got all these things in, we are going to be able to bring in something called load Stripe. This is the only thing we're taking from that Stripe.js library. Everything else we're going to take from React Stripe. So let's bring it in, and it is called load Stripe. And it comes from that Stripe.js. And this is taking its sweet time, isn't it? There we go. Once we've got that method, we can actually use it. And actually, we skipped a really important step. I've signed up to Stripe, but you might not have done. So if you're following along, this is a great time to sign up for Stripe and grab your keys. So I'm not silly enough to expose actual keys, so I've got a test one here. And once you do have an account, it's free, easy to sign up. You want to go to your dashboard, and you want to go to developers and API keys, and these are the two that you want. These are my test keys. I don't mind that we're showing them. Please don't share your live keys with other people. And even though these are tests, we're still going to keep them in environment variables for neatness, if nothing else, but also to practice as if they were live. This publishable key, frankly, it doesn't matter if anyone sees it. It's designed to be shared. We can throw it around our React app, no problem. The secret key, we definitely want to keep it secret. That's another reason we're going to deal with that part of it in our serverless function. But let's grab both of these. So our publishable key, let's take him. And let's make our environment, our .env file. Oh, did I just put that in source? No, yeah. So our .env, and let's call this one, I want to use it in my React app. And let's call it Stripe oh, that's a long word, publishable key. Paste that in. And then the other one we don't need to use in our React app, so we don't need to give it that prefix. So we can just call it Stripe. Let's call it secret key. And let's go grab that. Reveal it. So this is the one. If it was a live one, you do not want to be showing people this. You can charge your account and do all sorts of awful things. There we go. Cool. All right, so we've got these. We should be able to access them, and all our libraries have now installed. That was a good fun thing to do there. And let's make sure we're not storing that .env. Why is he still picking them up? Because I didn't give it an environment. Let's just add it down here. Okay, so this .netlify folder, I didn't make it. When you do that Netlify init, which we covered last time, then it's going to create that for you. There's not too much in it, but it's just to let you know that's where it comes from. Okay, cool. So we've got our environment variables. Now let's use them. So we are going to call this load Stripe, and we're going to pass it this publishable key so we can have access to our instance of Stripe. So let's call it Stripe, for want of a better word. And let's load Stripe, and we want to pass it that key. So I am not going to risk mistyping that. I'll pop it in there. Cool. So now what we want to do for this is actually give access to the Stripe instance throughout our application. So this is a pattern that you may start to be recognizing now of giving wrappers that we can have access to things trickle down through our app. So our Redux store, we have that provider. Netlify identity, I forget the name of the wrapper for that, but we wrapped our app in it, and we're actually going to do the same thing here. with something called Elements. So Elements is from the React Stripe library, if I remember rightly. And it's just a wrapper. Form. I cannot spell from the first time in any situation. React Stripe JS. And this is what we're gonna wrap this in. So as I said, I'm just gonna wrap it up here. If you wanted to use it only in a certain section, you can definitely do it further down. And it takes in a prop of Stripe, which I happen to call the same thing. Could have called it giraffe, but I didn't, because I don't know. Elements. Beautiful. All right, so we should now have enough to be able to use Stripe within our application as it goes around. You do not want to, we're not going to reference this directly. You'll come into all sorts of interesting errors. So we're actually going to use a hook that React Stripe provide of use elements, and that's going to be giving us access to what's in here of this actual Stripe instance, which is pretty cool. So we should, I think we should be done with index.js by now. Bye. Let's make sure that we didn't break anything. We did, cool. What did oh, yeah. There we go. Closed it too early. Added an extra little GUI here. There we go, beautiful. Everything should still work as expected. We just got access now to that Stripe instance. Okay, so what do we want to do next? Well, this, if we're being honest, let's make this a bit smaller so we can see everything. If we're being honest, this doesn't look particularly secure, right? I definitely don't have enough information here to actually make a payment. I've got too much in some ways. I don't really, you've probably made a payment online before where you didn't actually need to give your name, your address, your date of birth, your social security number. You actually just need your card number, really. I've only got these additional things in today to show you how you can get that data in as well. You don't actually need it. You can just do it with card details, but obviously card number isn't quite enough. And I clearly haven't been diligent enough to make something for a CVC code and an expiry date. So we want to do that ourselves. So let's actually use the one that we can have access to from React Stripe. So what I'm going to do is, what is it that has that in? That is in, let me see. Do you know what? Let's use our brains. Let's get our components. Ooh, hello. That's ginormous. Okay, components. Is that still big enough for you guys to see? If I have it smaller like that, it's okay. If not, I'll make it bigger again.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool. All right, so let's find what that's in. It looks like it's in billing details. That's where that card number is. So that's where I really would love for someone else to have designed this a nice card input for me. So let's go to billing details. And this card number is not great, so I'm going to actually get rid of it. And I'm going to bring in a card element that they've made for me, which has all the appropriate things that we need. It's got some validations in, and honestly, if I'm dealing with people's card numbers and finances, I would like a recognized body like Stripe to be handling some of that for me rather than myself. So let's use it. So let's use, it's called card element, and this is also coming from that same React Stripe JS library. And this is a component that has lots of good stuff in. So let's just use it and let's just see what it looks like initially. Let's have a look. Card numbers assigned. Yeah, it's just a warning. Oh my god! Oh my god! It's gone. All right, so I'm just gonna wrap this straight away. So I had this issue yesterday as on this display of it was quite fascinating. Let me just see what it was I wrapped it in. I think it was some sort of yeah. Obviously, I didn't make note of it. I'm pretty sure it was this. Okay. I will preface this by saying there's a bunch of CSS which I copied over from a test. So fake input is certainly not something that is just going to appear by magic. It's just got some extra things in. So, all right, cool. So this guy's here. I'm still not really getting what I need from here. So I feel like maybe we are bringing us in incorrectly. Let me see. So clearly, the documentation is quite good for this. Some of it, there's little pieces where I felt like it could have been a little more explicit, but it was okay. So let's see, card element. So I do have options going in, but I feel like you shouldn't need them. Just maybe this is a spacing thing. I'm just gonna nix a couple of these. All right, so that doesn't want to happen. That's okay. Well, this is as good a time as any to talk about how we can pass in options, and maybe some of our options can help us here. Although I'm not sure they're going to. I'm wondering why we don't have access to this. In fact, I'm so certain that just adding options isn't going to work. I'm going to actually dig down and find out what's going on. So let's find this. Oh, look. So that's not actually rendering anything at all. Did I spell this wrong, perhaps? React. Import card element from React Stripe JS. No problem there that I can see. Don't need this guy. Anyone see any silly syntax errors I've made or anything? I don't have any good warnings. Don't need this anymore. Okay, so it hates me. That's cool. So check it out. That div is literally empty, and I'm not entirely sure why. Because I'm expecting this component to be loaded in there.
Could you maybe, I'm looking on the Stripe documentation, but it's huge. Could you maybe like paste where this is like in the documentation so I could help troubleshoot?
Yeah. So React Stripe, card element. So, well, I'll give a couple of links actually, and I'm gonna put them straight in that channel, rather than clutter our chat here. Let's go brunch and learn. Okay, cool. So there's the GitHub, and then let me get you guys documentation as well. So here's the first part of it. Should probably Stripe docs. Card element from React Stripe. Oh, I've forgotten a really important part. This is silly. So, I didn't know that we needed to wrap this first. I thought we only needed it when we wanted to access it, but let's move on to what we would have to do one step along if we wanted to actually access what was inside here. Because I want to, obviously once I've got it, so I can type in here, I do need to be able to use that data that's in there. And so to do that, we've got another hook called use elements. So I'm gonna add that one now, and I might have ignored the fact that we need to put that in first before we can actually use our elements. Although the clue is in the hook name. so let's bring that in, and I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to bring that in here. Am I going to bring that in here? Where do I want that? I do not need to do that. That is not the issue here. This is bugging me a lot.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's exactly it.
Yeah?
Because it says under use elements to safely pass the payment information collected by an element to the Stripe API, access the component's underlying element instance so you can use it with other Stripe methods.
Yeah, the thing is we don't
React Hooks API, then use elements is the recommended easiest way to access a mounted element. But that doesn't really have to do with showing it on the
Exactly. There's not really an indication there that we need that in order to show it, but it's true that we will need it. We will need to access it. So let's look at how we can access it in the first place. So we're gonna want it. What we're actually gonna be filling out today is this handle submit payment. So as we saw, handle submit payment at the moment, just console log submitting payment, very useless. So this is the function that we're going to need to flesh out today. So this is where I'm going to need to access it. But in order to do that, we do need that use elements hooks. So let's grab it. Use elements from, Stripe, React, Stripe, JS. I feel like I've got a spelling mistake or something. Okay, use elements from Stripe, React, Stripe, JS, and so we need to have access to this throughout. You could call it directly, but let's make a reference to it. So I'm going to call it Stripe elements for want of a better phrase. Elements equals use elements. All right, cool. So now throughout this, I have access to this, but this is only for when I need to actually, literally access it. So I've got some data in a card element, and I need to grab it out. So this should not be an issue. This should not. If this changes it, I'm going to be shocked. Yeah, it's not changed it. I'm sad it's not changed it, but I'd be shocked if it did change it. so okay, well, why is that not rendering? Okay, let's just have a look through this and make sure I'm not making any silly errors. So I'm using it in my billing details. And I am spelling this right, because if I did it wrong, it would tell me that it doesn't. Okay, I thought that would tell me that it doesn't have access to it.
Do you think your CSS is overwriting? Because in the card element, it has like CSS written into the element itself. So
I think you're right. I think I need to take out this. I could have sworn that was gonna be it. Okay, I'm gonna restart this in extreme hope. Oh, why are you loading up there? I don't want you up there. Do you work? No.
Don't get me wrong, your CSS is gorgeous and beautiful. That's one thing I was wondering though, if it would come up with the same CSS. It really
So I've
shouldn't. I
done
mean,
it
that's
using the
only
same
this.
CSS as in my test, so it shouldn't be an issue. So let's go through this and
I got
figure
them
out.
options too. So
Okay, so
all
we've
it
got,
really does is put the placeholder in the invalid
yeah, and we're
for
gonna
the
put in
current
some
element.
options. I just don't feel like we should have to do that in order to see the basic one.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing as we're not getting anywhere like that, let's actually. Okay, well let's talk about the options. So as Meg's saying, this element can take in a bunch of options, and there's a few different things. So we can change the styles that are built in, and we can by default it shows a zip code or a postcode unit, which I don't particularly need here because I'm already getting them to put it in, and also I hate when I'm asked for my zip code when I pay something. So let's pass it in. So it takes in this options, and let's call it card L options, and let's actually define that. All right, so style wise, I don't really want to change it. We can say what happens if it's invalid though. The bright red that is sort of the standard, I think, is a bit excessive. So I'm gonna make it so that our color for that is actually a dark red, nice and classy. And oh, did that wrong. Dark red. And there's a little icon that comes up as well, so let's change the icon color also to dark red, keeping it cool. If you want to change your base styles, you have base here, which you can give it another option here, but we should be okay there. We should be. All right, so, and the other thing I definitely want to get rid of is that zip code. So I definitely, the option for that is hide postal code, and I want to set that to true because that's just really annoying. Okay. So I thought, what's not happening? What am I missing here? It's just not, I don't think it's coming in. I think that's the issue. Is it definitely called card element? Yes. Do you know what? I'm just gonna. Yes, that is it. Why would something not be imported? Card element options equals card element. I do.
Oh, I found something.
Yeah.
So there is an issue on Stripe. Someone said, in my case, the form is rendered inside a modal that's not visible initially, which is yours. The element wrapper is 0 by 0. There was more than one modal trying to render the Stripe form in the same page at initialization, so it was a race condition problem between those modals. Stop loading the Stripe form until the user opens the modal. So it might have something to do with the modal.
Should not be an issue, but we can definitely try it elsewhere. I know it's something to do with my styling because I had the same issue yesterday. Let me see if I can directly change it. All right, let me look at my test and see what I had in terms of styling here. So I did have that fake input, and we had yeah, I maintained that billing details, and that fake input. Let's have a look. Is included here, so it should be exactly the same. This is literally a copy of this. I don't think it's coming in. I think that is the issue, and I'm gonna show you why I think that's the issue. I think that's the issue. Well, I showed you, so it's not actually there. So even if okay, well we can't render more than one of them. That is a rule. So let's just try and render it in app.js and see what's going on. So I can grab it from here, card element, and let's just render it here. Good a place as any. Let's see. That is not. Let's just not have this. That's not coming in. Maybe I just don't. Maybe I didn't. Did I? I did install that library, right? That would be amazing if that's the issue. All right, guys. You thought you were here for Stripe, but we're actually here for essential npm debugging. All right, so
Troubleshooting 101. Welcome.
Absolutely.
Oh, useful.
The other stuff you can just learn on the internet anyway. So, all right. So let's have a look straight. Oh, this is silly to look in here already. Let's look in our package. We've got Stripe. Yeah, and React Stripe JS, and it came in just fine. And we should have access to this. Stripe. There he is. So that's not the problem. Where are you? Colin is fine. Yes, I know. That's really frustrating. All right. Do you know what? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to directly take this.
Sarah said in the chat, do you need to import load Stripe? She read something that says you need to load Stripe to access elements.
Yeah, so load Stripe we brought in here, and then we had access to it through elements, which should be set up fine. I guess there's a chance. Do you know what? There's a chance that there is a chance that my key is not correct. Okay. So this is actually not. So when you check it out. Okay, guys, this is a big learning process for us all. API key should be a string, e specified undefined. React Stripe publishable key. Why do I not have access to you? Okay, so my.env is here. React app Stripe publishable key. Oh boy.
Well, is it a string?
Look at that.
So this is your private key, right?
No, I just had them. I had the the quotation marks around them, which you don't need here. So, ironically, let's try that again. Do you know what, let's start this up again. So we've changed our variables. That's awesome. Did we spend like 20 minutes on that? It's like I'm here doing this for
Live and you learn, right?
All right, let's see. So now we should get, fingers crossed. Huh? Now what's going on? Okay, now I'm just confused. Oh, no. I'm just an idiot. It's cool. I changed the wrong one. So we're going to put these in strings. So I just told you guys everything the wrong way around because I was looking in the wrong place. And all right, now we're going to do that again. All right, I feel pretty confident that this is it. Console. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. Do you know what we're going to do? We're going to take these and we're going to bring them in directly. It looks exactly the same. Okay, but the issue is definitely with my key and something to do with our loading. So stripe load stripe process.env react app stripe publishable key. That is indeed what I've called it. And I do have access to it because of this. I just noticed that it's not, it should tell me that we are, okay, so when you run Netlify, it normally tells you that it's overwriting those variables. I just noticed that it's not telling me that. So what I'm going to do...
It does say, though, card elements is defined but never used. Stripe elements assigned value but never used.
Yeah, so that's their warnings. They're not really bothering me right now. What's bothering me is that it's saying my API key is invalid.
Mm-hmm.
So without that, I know that I can't have access to anything else, whether I use it or not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually go to Netlify, and I'm gonna put our environment variables in on the UI, which is interesting. Because I wouldn't expect to have to do this until deployment, actually, which I'm not deploying it yet, but we'll give it a go. So build and deploy, and I want to make my environment variables, and I'm just gonna take them in exactly. Is that right? Yes, that's right. And just to avoid any spelling errors, let's take it in like that. Some value. Save. Okay. Let's.
So you can do that instead of a .env file?
So you can. So it's not necessarily instead. So if I wasn't using Netlify, I could just use the .env. For Netlify, there's a couple of ways to get your environment variables in. When we're using them in functions, it's a bit more strict, but for this, it should read them.
That's really cool.
Okay, cool. So check this out. Now I did that on the UI. It said injected build setting environment variable this and this. Nice. So now I feel certain that they are there. So there we go, lesson learned. I knew that it should give me a message like that, but I didn't bother to look because Um,
Do you think like if you are deploying on Netlify, that might be the safer route to go then? Like
yeah, and
having
I
gone
think
through all this now.
it does also depend on how you initially deployed it. So I remember now that when I was doing my test, I deployed it all like just from my CLI locally. When I did this one, I did do it via the GitHub continuous development option. So it looks like that has played a big part in that. So that is definitely an interesting thing to note. So when I just initialized it without going via GitHub, it was fine. And this time it seems to have caused an issue. So it would be good to look into that. Doesn't seem like it's paying any attention to this now. Um, but okay, so why did I just close that? That was really silly. Let's give this a go. And, okay, I'm gonna inspect. There's a very specific message I'm looking for. Yes! Okay. All right, so
Yay!
here's a warning message which I should have pointed out at the very outset because it is of interest and useful to know. Because I didn't bother to point it out, I didn't realize that it was actually entirely missing. So excellent. There we go. Environment variables. Who knew? So here's the message that I'm interested in. You may test your Stripe integration over HTTP. Otherwise, however, when it's live, it must be a secure connection. Netlify actually handles that for us, which is awesome. But just good to know if you're using Stripe elsewhere, make sure that it is over a secure connection. You have that certificate. Cool. So I know now that it's actually working. Let's go and see if we have a card input. Oh. Oh, it's an Easter miracle, guys.
Oh my gosh, nice.
Exactly, Alice.
Did that inherit your, oh no, it didn't inherit your CSS.
Okay, CSS, what have I got going on here? I've got the card element by itself. Okay, I'll show you why I've got that fake input around it. So by itself, that card element looks like this. It's fine. It's not bad. It's perfectly valid. I just wanted it to fit in more with mine. Of course, now we have a card element. That's great news.
So the fake input is supposed to like have it inherit your CSS.
My fake input mirrors what my input
Mm-hmm.
CSS has.
Okay. I just was looking at the text. The font was different, so that's why I just said that. But
Oh yeah, I couldn't. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't spend too long on it. I couldn't get it to update the font, and after I couldn't get it to update the font, I was like, screw
well,
it.
it's placeholder font, so I don't even know if you can. I guess you can change anything, but yeah.
When the actual font of typing, I couldn't persuade to get involved either. I'm sure if we spent a little time on it, then it'll be all right.
Yeah.
But seeing as we just went into a deep dive on debugging that situation for like 20 minutes, let's move on. So we can keep that. Let's keep Netlify open because that could be useful. And let's talk about something that I've also added here, and this is part of a validation. So when I hit contribute, my confirm payment button is actually disabled until everything's good to go. At the moment, oh no, okay, cool, I didn't take that out. So something to bear in mind is that you do want that to wait until that card number's in there as well. So it is a different input, but you do need to make sure that you're tracking that detail as well. So let's see.
Did you say that comes with that Netlify card element?
So
That
Netlify doesn't have a card element, Stripe does.
Or sorry, yeah, Stripe card element.
So what comes with that is just this input at the moment. That's all we're using. And this confirm payment is just something I've put in. So let's just go and have a look at how that is, because obviously one of the big things we do want to avoid is charging people twice accidentally. It's easy to double click on these things, or you're like, why isn't it working? And then you end up being charged a bunch of money. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So when I update my billing details, I'm actually hitting update billing details. Actually, let me just take that out, because I want to show you what it does without that. Okay, so yeah, there's that font I was talking about. It's quite nice. So some things it has. I'm trying to type letters now. No can do. Can't type anything but integers actually, which is pretty nice. That's all in there for you. If I put in this is one of their test cards, you can see that it's given me a nice indication that it's appropriate, it's valid, or at least it appears valid. We're going to need to add later to make sure it's also not declined, it's in date, but let me show you an example of an invalid one. There we go. So we've got that. In our custom styles, I said I want these dark red, which you can make it whatever you like, but that icon's pretty nice. It comes in for you. Okay, so I can't. Another reason that I'm not showing you this deployed, because it would fill in my credit card for me, so I'm not going to do that. Notice that the automatic filling in is pretty cool, right? That's kind of fun, and I hate it when that isn't involved actually. But thankfully it won't let me do it when I'm just testing this locally. So yeah, my issue is that this isn't actually triggering my confirmed payment. So I definitely do want to do that. So let's go and have a look at what happens when this also updates my billing details. So let's just grab this same one, and we're just going to update it to deal with that too. I don't need card number anymore. Let's go to app, and you know what? I don't need card number in here either. It's just some basic placeholders. And okay, so here's my update billing details. And let's see what's happening here. So all right, let's see what happens. Let me make sure I've not got, okay, 8888. All right, we don't need all of these. Let's get rid of this one. I think I mentioned this last time. One thing I don't like about Netlify Dev is it doesn't check to see if you already have this open and open it. Like, just refresh the page. I'll open you a new one. That's frustrating. That's okay. So let me see if we've got any nice information here. So I'm trying to contribute. And okay, cool. So I've got a little error here. It didn't change anything, it didn't tell my user anything, but in console it's saying cannot read property name of undefined in object billing details. So let's go and have a look at that. And its issue here is that it's looking for a name, property on the target, and it's going to update that in my state. So this is a pretty standard controlled form. So the problem is that this event that the card has doesn't actually have a target per se. So and we know that it's talking about target because it's saying can't read property name of undefined. So whatever comes before name is what's undefined. Here's name, target is what it can't find. So let's check to see if it has a target. So it needs to have a target. If so, then we're going to go and do that. And okay, that's fine. So let's see what that does for us. Hopefully it gets rid of our, oh, do you know what? You can just have my address, it's fine. All right, cool. So this is this is okay. It is filling in that confirm payment. But let's say, okay, let's say we got this. It is enabling my confirm payment even if I don't have a card number in. So obviously we could deal with this later and deal with the validation when we click, but it'd be great if it just wasn't enabled until then. So let's see if we can grab that as well. So now we do need to access that card element. We need to see if we can grab its information. So let's where we're setting it is here, and I'm setting it based on if everything in my billing details is, as long as none of them are empty. So this sum method's pretty cool. But I also need to know if my card details are not empty. So let's see if we can grab them. So we've already brought in our elements with the use elements hook. So we're going to use that to grab that card element and have a little poke around it. So how this works is, let's call it like card deets. And we're going to use stripe elements. And it's called get element. And we tell it which element we want to do. So I think somebody mentioned before actually that you can only have one card element. So there's not going to be a conflict here. If you try and render two, it's going to freak out at you. So when we say, I want the card element, it knows that there's only one, and it's going to be okay. So let's console log this guy, and let's have a little poke around. Okay. Pass carrying. I should have a test address that I put in here. All right, let's confirm payment. Oh, sorry. Every time I change it, it's actually logging it. So didn't need to do that. So this is it. This is our card details object. And what is of interest to me really is I just need to know if it's empty or not. That's all I need to know. And it's quite nice. The definition that it has of empty is anything empty. So everything does need to be complete in order to do this. And I believe it is. Where is it? Empty. Here we go. So empty is currently false, which is very pleasant. We can handle that. So let's just check to see if it is empty. If you noticed, it was underscore empty. So we need to know if any of our billing details are empty, or our controlled form, or our card deets is empty. So if this returns true, or this returns true, then we want the payment to be disabled. We can't have any of these details empty. As I said, it's not essential that you do it here, but you know, I'd certainly like to be alerted of any mistakes I've made before I've pressed the button. I find it quite scary to press a button and saying, I'm going to pay you money, and then for it to say, oh, something's gone wrong. I'm like, well, how wrong? Did you charge me and I ordered the wrong thing? You know, I would prefer to know before I hit the big scary button. Obviously, now we know a little bit more how it works behind the scenes. It's a little less scary, but for a user, that would be pretty terrifying. So let's see now if that gets rid of that issue. And okay, so previously, if I made an edit here, that would actually enable that button. I'm not interested in doing that. So now I'm entering. And then finally, when I've entered all my details, my button is enabled. Awesome. It's a very low-hanging fruit in terms of a nice validation to keep my user happy. Okay, cool. So where are we at now? We are appropriately allowing them to pay, enabling the button. And all we've got to do now is actually submit a payment, right? So there's essentially three parts to a Stripe payment. We first want to create a payment intent. We're gonna use it again later to confirm, but we need to create it initially. And what that gives us is a secret, a client secret. That is going to use our Stripe secret key. So I'm going to do it in a serverless function. So I'm not banding it around my front end too much. And then that's it for the first bit. The next bit we need a payment method, and that gives us a payment ID. And then the third thing, we need to actually confirm the payment. So the confirmation of that payment, what it requires is that client secret and the payment ID. That's what it needs. Through the course of it, we're going to tell it other useful stuff like how much and the currency. But essentially that's what it needs, and that's what we need to bit by bit acquire. So let's concentrate first on that payment intent, getting the client secret. So as I said, it involves this secret key that we've got. I don't want to throw it around too much. So I'm going to actually make a function to handle this.
You talked about making sure like they only click once on the payment button. Is that part of this too? Or will it just not accept more than one click?
So if I do not have that, and actually remind me at the end, once we have this all fully working, I'm going to take out that thing where we disable the button. You'll see that they can charge themselves multiple times.
Oh, so that's like, okay, because I got the impression that once they put in the information, if it doesn't turn over quickly, that's when they can, because you said like if they're like it's taking too long, they might click it again. Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm at the end.
All I'm doing is avoiding a user error, or not a user error, a user impatience, right?
Yeah.
So if I, in fact, let's inspect this again, and let's.
Because my thought was they already filled everything out, and then they double click the button. So it would, like once they fill, or does it automatically clear after they click it?
So that would be a great thing to implement, to have the form clear, for sure. That would also be a great safety measure. I think this disabling a button is really, really key. If I can't press the button, there's no chance that I can actually submit anything. So let's actually adjust this. Well, not adjust it. We do handle submit payment when we do that. So let's. I'm going to take this out again. And well, do you know what? I'm just gonna take that whole line out, and I'm going to make the payment enabled at all times. So let's have a look at my console. Contribute. Okay, so I'm submitting payment. You might not be able to see those numbers go up. So let's say I've got I've put everything in. And I'm submitting payment. Great, I can do it again and again and again and again and again. So we definitely want to keep an eye on this. Of course, the issue is with my current solution, if they then go and edit that form, they could submit again. So we're going to need to handle that again later. So basically, as soon as we start the Stripe process, we're also going to ensure that that button is disabled, and we're actually going to change the whole button. When it's confirmed, we're not even going to give them an opportunity to accidentally press it. So it's the first step of that. But I'm basically also making a little bit less work for myself. I don't want to handle, there's missing data. Not interested. I don't want to handle that.
So basically, as soon as they press it once the form is filled out, the button's enabled. Then as soon as they press it, it's disabled again.
Not yet.
Okay, we'll get there.
That's the next thing we need to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're on step 1, which is I don't want them to be able to press the button until they have all the data. Step 2, which is what we're going to start now, is we want to make sure that they can't keep pressing it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So you're right. I jumped ahead a little bit. Jumped ahead of myself a little bit there. But let's
Right.
start that. So we're making our
And
now what we want to do is this is fine. It's disabled until I put it in, confirm payment, and instead of logging this, I want to do something useful. So
okay, gotcha. So that's the where the handle submit payment comes in.
yeah, exactly. So I've stubbed it out with nothing. This is going to end up being quite a beefy little function, which you could which you could definitely separate out. I'm going to write it all in one today, but you could definitely separate it out. So let's do the most important thing. I've submitted my payment, so I want to set payment disabled to true. That's the first thing I want to do. So now, as soon as I do this, oh, it's disabled. I'm now in stasis. It's never going to enable itself again because until I refresh the page because I didn't ask it to. But this is great. I can't keep submitting my payment now. This is awesome. I'm safe. All right, cool. So now we said okay. Let's Ruby. Let's write Ruby. Let's start the process. So first we want to create a payment intent. We'll capitalize it, make it sound important. And sorry, keyboard just collapsed. Create a payment intent, get client secret. That's our step one. Next thing we want to do is we want to create a payment method. And that gives us a payment method ID. And then 3, use all the above to confirm the payment. So it's actually a relatively, there's quite a few little bit moving parts, but it's only 3 steps really, and they make sense. We need to do these right, and I like also that when we are handling quite sensitive data, it's nice that there's a number of steps in which we can validate. We can be like, hey, actually this is not going to go as you planned. You're actually going to spend £1 million and you're going to get a toy tiger delivered to your door. You know, this is what we're trying to avoid. We're handling people's finances. So, all right, step 1. I'm going to want to use the Netlify function for this. I'm going to use a serverless function because we're handling some secret data. Let's make a request to it. So, where's best to start with this? Well, let's just create it. So we're using it to get our payment intent. Payment intent. Let's call it create payment intent. I'm going to use async await today, just for change it up a little bit. And okay, so now what we want to do is we want to make a call to our backend. What I mean when I say backend, I mean our serverless function. We don't have it yet, but let's see what would be an intelligent name for it. It'd be great if I could just call it by API / payment intent. Seems legit. That would be lovely. I can't do that right now, and it would be awesome if well, let's just try and hit it first. So let's payment intent. Great payment intent. So at the moment, I don't really care what I get back. I'm just gonna give it a go, see if I can get something going. I think probably my first port of call is to make sure that I can hit this. So does anyone remember how I make a Netlify function? It's okay if not, there's a video. All right, so we want to Netlify functions, create, and then the name of it, whatever we call it now is going to be its path. I gave it create payment intent. Not exactly RESTful, is it? But it'll do. Oh, yes, fair enough. No functions folder specified in netlify.toml. Well, do you know what? I don't even have a netlify.toml, so let's make one. So this is our configuration file. Here he is. And there's a few things we can do in here. Actually, we're going to do our redirects in here today as well. Are we? Yes, let's do our redirects in here as well. So last time, if you remember, we were handling our redirects in a specific redirects file, which was in our public folder. We can do that in our config, actually. So, well, first let's handle what it's complaining about. And it's asking to know where to find its functions. I'm just going to call it functions. Actually, wait, I think I need to... Yeah. Having a real issue remembering my quotation marks today. Sorry. Whoa. There we go. All right, so let's just do that first, and we'll do the redirects in a second. So we've got this now. Let's create that again. Awesome. So it's allowing me to do it now. I could have manually made that, but it'd be a bit boring. I'm just gonna go for a hello world. So if you ever feel like it, you can have a look through some of these. We do have some Stripe things going on here, which is kind of fun, but we're going to start from scratch today with just a hello world. And it created my function. Woohoo. So let's go and have a look at it. And there it is. Let's just get rid of the bump we don't need. Okay, so let's run this, and I just want to see if I can hit it first. So Netlify dev. So this is where Netlify dev can really come into its own. So now it's actually starting up our local host, but also our Lambda server, and then whacking it all together, which is pretty cool. So let's go and use that. And what I really wanted was to access it at API/create payment intent. But that's clearly a massive fail. It didn't really do much for me at all. So let's handle that in our redirects. Now, if I do want to access it, I can go. I finally memorized this, guys. Netlify/functions/create payment intent, and there it is. But this is a hassle to remember. It's not that bad, actually, is it? But certainly at first I found this a hassle to remember. And API sounds a lot more interesting and obvious. So let's make it so when I call /API/something, it actually redirects to here. So let's do it in our TOML file today. So we can do this with redirect. Make sure that is redirects. Okay, and we need to tell it where it's coming from, where it's going to, and if we want, we can give it a status, which we might as well, because that's polite. So let's go from, and we are saying I want to be able to call API/something. And what I want it to actually do is to go to /Netlify/functions / my favorite dynamic segment ever, splat. So that's gonna literally look at this guy and be like, okay, I'll go there. And let's give it a status of 200. Now, whilst we're here, I'm going to put in another redirect, actually, because once reviewing this live, because we are in this single page application, if we go to /anything else, it's not going to know what to do. So I'm going to tell it to always go back to index.html, and we go into that more in that other video, so I'm not going to go too much into today. But basically, if it's anything, and it will find it if it's that. But if it's anything else, I want to go from there to index.html, because that's our only page that we've got, with a status of 200. Awesome. All right, cool. So let's try that again. I'm getting some. Let's see if I made any syntax errors. Probably. Yep. Isn't this cute? If you misspell dev, it's like, hey, did you mean that? Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's doing its thing. Yeah, okay, hold on. Let me just clear this out. This did it to me earlier as well, actually. It was very unfriendly. Oh. So, I mean, what just happened is that it actually it just froze on me, my terminal. It's been doing it a few times, actually. I'm not entirely sure what causes it, but there we go. Do you know what? I'm actually, it's bugging out all over the place. So. All right, hopefully that's fine. Let's go back here. Netlify dev. Okay. All right, so we're here. And let's see if that API / create payment. So before it just routed here, and now it's saying the site can't be reached. What happened? It's doing the thing. Okay. I never know this off by heart. Is it? Is it this? No, hold on. Give me a second. This is an easy Google to find if you ever need it. How to find and kill what's running on a port. Still haven't committed it to memory. Okay, so basically I found what's happened there, and I'm gonna kill it because I'm heartless and it's getting in my way. Cool. So now there should be nothing. Excellent. We really are having the full experience today. This is great. All right, let's find that again. Hey, all right, cool. So I already had it loaded to API / create payment intent, and it is going there, which is awesome. The other redirect, it will happen anyway when you're working locally, so it's not going to be that impressive. But if I go to like stuff, it'll just redirect here. It would have done that anyway until we deployed it. But most importantly, that API is working, which is great. What I would like to do now is give it a little bit of protection. So actually, this create payment attempt, we want it to be a post request because we do need to send some information along. I would love it to only ever respond to a post request. So let's do that as a little bit of, and let's get rid of some of what we don't need here, which is, well, I'll still return that for now, I suppose. But I didn't need that query string. And, all right, cool. So let's, so we're going to do this before our try catch. And we want to check what that status, what the method is that came along with it. So we can check it. And if it's not a post request, we're going to return some, I don't know, some sassy message, which is like, you can't have access to this or something. So let's go, it's in the event. and we were looking for the HTTP method, and if it is not equal, to post, then we can just straight away do a return. Let's return, we can kind of model it on what's down here. We can return a status code of 405 as if the method is not what we wanted. And let's just say post or bust. It really doesn't matter, we're not going to use that. But all we want to do is make sure it returns earlier, and with this status code of 405, we're not allowed access to it. Cool, okay, so now if we, that should have hot reloaded itself. So now if we try and go to API/create payment intent, it says post or bust. We can't have access to it, we can't have that message. Pointless, but you know. So, okay, so now we need to, well, the nice thing, it means that we can't access it in the browser like that, because that's going to default to a GET. So let's make sure that our actual request, well, let's try our request. Let's try our request right now, which is on let's contribute, and actually, no, I've just realized how I can get away with that. So now I've confirmed my payment. I didn't specify my method in my fetch call yet, so it actually says get this is not allowed, method not allowed. It hated it. Oh, I also didn't format my JSON. Cool. There, well, doesn't matter. I just realized how I can stop. Not that the damage is done now, but I'm just going to put in test in all of these. And oh, that was very exciting. A bird flew over. All right, cool. And I'm not going to put any validations on the validity of the postcode or anything today, so this shouldn't be a problem. So excellent. There we go. Now, it has data, but I don't have to share it. I definitely should have done that from the beginning. Never mind. At least you don't have my credit card details. Yes. All right, cool. So let's make it so we can actually hit this thing. And hopefully it's going to work. So let's just make this something that it can actually handle. And we're going to head to our app where we are hitting that. All right, cool. So let's give it some options. So we are going to want an actual method. And what else does this thing need? Let me remember. What do you need? I think it just needs the amount and the amounts and the currency. Let me remind myself. I'll tell you guys something not true. Okay, no, actually it just needs the amount, and you could pass it the currency here as well. I've decided that I only accept British pounds, sorry, so I'm going to set that on the back end. But if you were, for example, wanting to let them choose their currency, you could pass that in here perhaps, and you'll see how we handle it when we get there. So let's, well, first of all, I just want to be able to hit it at all. So actually, let's just make this a post request. And hopefully we won't get that error now of not being allowed. So let's just check that is working for us. Can't autofill this unfortunately. Cool. So it did give me my message. I didn't get that method not allowed error. So that's working with the post request. Note that I thought it was quite interesting that I have to give it capitals now because I specifically said post in capitals. See, I could make that a little bit more lenient, but good to know. And all right, so now let's give it something useful, which is going to be actually the amount that we want to give it. So in this situation, there's numerous ways you could do it, and what you might actually want want to pass along at any given point, and what you want to handle on this side, what you want to handle on that side. I'm going to give it the donations separately. So I've got 2 items, if you like, the one for Crisis, the one for Mind. I'm going to send it an array of both of those, and I'll do the adding up of the total on the other end. Perhaps if this was a big store, you could be passing something like, a good example I heard was like item IDs, and maybe in your database you check, oh, they've ordered the Tiger model, and they've ordered a pair of scissors, so I'm going to grab their prices and grab it from there, rather than, you know, risk people just giving their own prices or something, if they knew how to do that. So, but today I'm just going to pass along those actual units. So I'm going to pass it along my donations. So donations here is this array that increases as I, each one increases as I do this. So if I show you in components, it's in app. Here's that array, and you can see it updating as I increase. I did make it so you can't go negative, because that would be weird. All right, so that's what I'm going to pass along, and I'm going to handle the addition on the other end actually. Okay, cool. So that should be enough, and let's see if we can get it to return something useful. So let's go to our function, and what we want to do here is we want to commune with Stripe, and we want to tell it, hey, I've got a friend here, and they're intending to pay me something. Note that I haven't passed it along any card details. I haven't told them how they're going to pay. I've just said somebody intends to purchase something from me, and I intend to collect their money, which would be very nice. So that's all I'm sharing at the moment. And to do that, this is the bit where I need to actually communicate with Stripe. I need to tell them my secret key, just for this initial setup of the transaction. So I already brought in Stripe. Well, I already installed Stripe. Sorry, let's get rid of this. So let's require it. Const. Let's call it Stripe. Let's require Stripe. So we can't use our import statements in here. I'll do it like this. So now we have access to that. We want to make an instance of it. So kind of like we did in our index.js, we're in a different area now, so we want to have access to it again. And all right, so let's do that. And we are going to make a new instance, literal instance now of Stripe. And what that takes in is our secret key. So it's very similar to what we did on the other side, but this takes our secret, which I believe I called it Stripe secret key. If I had any brains, that's what I probably would have called it. And that should now give us access to this. Let's just for fun, let's see if we can console log Stripe. All right. Ooh. Cool. So there it is. This is coming from my function, so it's not going to come up in my console in my browser. So there it is. It's this ginormous object that has a lot of features, and honestly, we're not going to use too much of them. But it knows a lot, primarily about our finances. So that's why we want to keep it on this end. All right. So what do we want to do with it? So we want to create this payment intent. So let's do that. So if it's not a post, we're saying screw it, go away. Otherwise, we're going to try and do this stuff. So we're definitely not going to be returning hello world. What we want to be returning is the client secret, and I can send along some other stuff as well. Maybe we'll we could return the total, perhaps what we've calculated the total to be. You could, I'm not going to make a UI step in between this and the actual confirmation, but you could maybe like, hey, do you confirm that you are spending £10,000 on a donut? Then maybe you'd want that in there, but you know, whatever you want to give back. So what we're going to do is we're going to commune with this Stripe instance that we've made, and as I said, it's creating a payment intent. So let's call it a payment intent. Payment intent, not the method, not yet. This thing's already async, so we might as well use await. And we're calling that Stripe instance, and it's payment intents.create. Cool, makes sense. Okay, so what does this take in? It can take in a few different things. What I'm interested in primarily is how much it's going to be for and what currency it's going to be in. That's what I'm going to start with. So I want an amount, and that is the name it needs to be, amount. That's a specific key. And we need currency. And as I said, I'm going to set mine here to GBP. You could set it to whatever you want, or you could perhaps pass it in. But let's say GBP here. Okay, so where am I going to get my amount from? Sure, you could hard code it, but that seems a bit mean. So I need to pass this along. Did I did not already pass this along. Yes, I did. I passed it along as donations, didn't I? So yes, I'm bringing in that whole array. So let's grab it on this side. I don't want to log this anymore. Seems crazy. All right, so let's get these donations. So donations, and when you pass along that body, it's in the event in your functions. So we're just going to grab it from here. So I'm destructuring that. I think probably most people are quite comfortable with that now, but if you're not, come along to study groups and things, or take a look at it. It's just a shortcut. It's just sugar. You don't need to do it. It's just saves a bit of typing. All right, cool. And so let's actually grab them. All right. So we want to. I've got this array, which I can't pass it an array. I do need to actually pass it something, just a specific number. Something interesting about Stripe is that when you give a number, it's going to, did I mean GBP? Oh yeah, I make that. Sorry, I make that mistake all the time. So when we give it a number, it wants it in the lowest denomination of that currency. So for example, in US dollars, your lowest denomination is a cent, and in euros, for me, it's pennies. So we need to translate whatever our amount comes to into pennies. So for example, if both pennies and cents, both dollars and pounds are in increments of 100 of their lowest, cent or pennies. So we'll want to times our amount by 100 to get there. So if I'm paying £1, I'm actually paying 100 pennies. $1, 100 cents. So I would need to pass it 100 as its amount. So just a good thing to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm grabbing it out and I need to get an actual number. So this is a great place for reduce, everyone's favorite method. So reduce sucks until you get it. Like it really sucks, but it's awesome when you get it. So let's try and get our total out. Do you know what we need to do? We need to actually pass that event body before I start getting errors. Okay, so total equals, let's reduce these donations. So donations dot reduce. So remember how reduce works?
Pass in a accumulator and the array. And
okay, so I'm calling it on the array.
Oh yeah, you're calling it on the array. Oh, shit, I should know.
It's a tricky one to remember. So it takes in two arguments. It takes in your function and it takes in your starting point. That's an easy way to remember it, like how you're going to adjust the starting point and where you're starting from. The confusing bit is where it gets these two arguments from that callback receives. So the first argument it's going to get, well, let's stub this out. So it's going to receive a function. I'm going to get rid of those curlies in a second, but just here for clarity. And it's going to have a starting point. So I'm going to start at 0, because I'm not going to, unless I wanted to like cheekily charge everyone an extra £1 or something, I'm just going to start at 0, although that would be a cheeky trick. Okay, so what the function is going to receive initially is that donation. So just like any iterator, it's going to go one at a time through this donations array, grab it in. So I'm going to, let's call it Don, to keep it short but fairly obvious. And then the next thing it takes in, so the first time it's going to take in this guy, so our starting point, and then after that it's just going to take in its result of how it's gone on. So let's call it, well, I guess T for total. Let's go T for total.
I normally put memo for the.
Did you say Venmo?
Memo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can put memo. I don't like the word memo. I think it's confusing.
Or the ACC for accumulator.
Yeah, let's go ACC for accumulator. I like that. So, and then we need to tell it what we want to do. I don't really need these guys. And all I want to do is I want to add them together. So the Don plus the accumulator, and hopefully that will give me something sensible. So let's log it just in case. Console.log total. I am using this on the front end as well to display it. So
you don't necessarily have to put that 0, right? Because then it'll just use the first element in the donations index.
Ooh, is that a handy shortcut that I didn't know about? Yeah, probably. You're probably right. Let's try it. So we're going to log that total. I'm just going to comment this out for now because it's not really completed. And let's I'm gonna set that to open in a second, so we don't have to keep opening it. And let's see. Phew. We're stuck in that massive stripe object. Ooh, am I still? It's telling me I've got an unexpected syntax error, which I think is probably actually from somewhere else. Thanks for telling me where. Hey, oh, here it is. 30. Ooh. Did I make a bigger error? So I'm gonna put that back in. I don't think it is. I don't think that's the issue, but I'm just gonna put it back in to make certain, because I just don't want to. I don't want to tell you something that's not true.
Build file.
Sorry? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said actually.
Oh, I was just looking at the message and it said in the build file, but maybe I saw it wrong because it was.
Yeah, so it's gonna always refer back to that, so it's a bit tricky to to find the errors when it's like that. But no, we're definitely getting some sort of error. What are we doing? Do you know what? Let's just check what we're passing it along. We are passing it. Should be fine. Let me just check.
On line 39, there's like a parentheses. What's that?
I think that's from my fetch. I think that's just starting that fetch. I think that's the problem.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're stringifying our donations, which should be fine. And we are bringing them in, which should be fine. I'll just make sure I'm not going crazy. Which I probably am. Yeah, this is fine. And all right, make sure I've. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make sure that. Oh, I think I may know what it is. Oh wait, just so we don't have to keep doing that, let's set that to always be open. True. And no, yeah. Cool. Save this a step. Let's confirm. And okay, so it's still freaking out at me. I'm actually going to take this out. I don't have any other issues here, do I? Try, block, return, catch, block. That's the end. If, block. Oh, what is that? How did that get there?
There we go.
There you go. All right. How did that even get there? Love it. All right, let's see that again. Should probably have a snippet for that. Oh no, we didn't see that yet. Cool, so it's logged this 10, which makes sense because I've asked it to log the total. Okay, that's fine, but I actually intended £10, which is 1,000 pennies. So I'm just gonna take this and directly times it by 100, and that should give me what I want. All right, so now let's actually create that payment intent that we've got that information. Let's add that.
Can you try it again without the 0 in? Just so like I know.
Oh yeah, of course.
Going
absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah. There's a good chance you're right. I just got in the habit of not doing it. Oh, do you know what? I forgot to log a total, but we'll check in a minute. Well, let's make a message that we'll send back, and it will tell us the total, and we'll see if it's correct. But it's not freaked out about it, so that's fun. All right, so let's just make a message and say something like you are about to pay, and then total. This is silly. You are about to pay total British pennies. Cool. So we'll send that back as well. All right, cool. So let's send it that message and also the payment intent. Then let's make sure we're doing something sensible with it here. Well, we're logging the payment intent. I'm going to call it the payment intent details. Because within that there's a payment. We'll see what it calls it. All right, so let's throw this out there. Did I actually log it? Yes. Confirm. Let's go to our console. Awesome. So it says you're about to pay 1,000 British pennies, and it gives me back also this payment intent. So there's a bunch of information in here. Things that I am interested in are certainly this client secret. If I wanted to skip a step, I could also maybe perhaps take this ID but I'm not going to do that because I like to be safe. So we're just interested in the client's secret actually. So let's grab that out, and let's have client secret is equal to payment intent details. I forgot already where it is. No, okay, I'll just I think it was dot payment intent. I believe it's client underscore secret. Okay. Let's see if it gave us something useful. This 4242 is one of Stripe's test cards. So when we start putting in some error handling, hopefully very soon, then we'll start using some of the other ones. Cool. So it's put out that that actual secret, which is beautiful. So that's the first part of what we're going to need to confirm this payment. Cool. So we are done with part one. That looks beautiful. There's not too much that can go wrong here. We could definitely add some error handling, but that would be fairly normal, probably something that you're used to. I'm more worried about handling my actual Stripe errors at the moment, so let's leave it for that. So okay, step two, let's create a payment method. So this is the other thing that we need, and we can do this right from here. We do need to commune with our Stripe instance again. There's no secrets being passed around, so it's not too big of a deal. So what I'm going to use is another hook that they offer, which is use Stripe, and that gives us access to exactly this. Oh, not that index, the other index. Let's close this components, it's too big. To this guy. So you don't want to be loading it again, you can just access it with that use Stripe. Things that we don't need. Don't need you for now. Don't think we need you for now. Don't really need you. Cool. All right. So let's give us a reference to that. I'll just call it Stripe again. Why not? Use Stripe. Lovely. And all right, so let's create this payment method. So what we're aiming to get back from here is a payment method ID or payment ID. And this is where we start actually giving it some details about how they're going to pay, which makes sense. It's a method. So in this example, I am going to pass it along that address, etc. You can give it, I'm going to give it a name and an address. You could also give it an email. Checking the documentation for what you can pass it. It does have to be in the expected format, which is why I've added the address today, so we can look at that. But all it actually really needs is the card details. You can add, extra checks, like check the postcode, check the address is valid. If you do that, obviously you need to pass along this data. So let's pass that along. And as I said, it needs to be in a certain format. So let's actually do that first. So let's call it formatted billing details. It's going to be based on our billing details. So we'll take the name, which is in billing details.name. And then our address is going to be wrapped up in this object. So we want it to be called line 1, and we can start being a bit lazy about this. So what did I call it actually? Let's just bring this down for reference. So add line sounds like an action rather than a piece of data, doesn't it? Okay, and let's just bring in everything else. Line 2 is the next one. Add line 2. And then county and postcode are almost, well, county's the same, so you could just be a bit lazy on that one. And postcode is separated out like that. If you just decided to name it like that anyway, you obviously wouldn't really need to do that, but good to know that we do need to format it in a certain way. Okay, so that should be all good. And okay, so what else does it need? It needs obviously the actual card details. So let's get this. So we've actually already done this before because we wanted to check if it was filled in. So we can use that the get the use elements hook, which we've got stored in the Stripe elements. Do you know what? I'm just going to actually grab that again. Bring it down here. And great, that's all I need really. So now let's start putting it together. So I've got that use Stripe hook, which I've stored in that Stripe variable. So I can call this here now because I'm not handling my secrets. And so let's what would be a sensible name for this? Let's call it create payment method. We've already got our intent, and we're already in an async, so we might as well use our await. And what we're doing is we're using Stripe, and we are doing it to, I think it's the same format. No, it's not. It's create payment method. Interesting. Maybe I'll change what I call it. And this takes in our billing details and our card details and also the type of payment it is. So we're just handling card payments at the moment. So let's do type of card. Let's give it our card details, which is it's expecting it in a key of just card. And so we can pass it our card deets. And finally, our billing details is in we want to pass it our formatted ones rather than straight from state. Cool, all right. So I'm just looking at time. We might do. No, let's not do error handling straight at the same time because I think that gets a bit confusing. But let's grab it out. So const payment method ID equals, and then we need to be able to find it in there. So let's first log it out. Console.log create payment method. All right, cool. Let's go do that. Keep going the wrong way. Console. That is true. We do not have a console. Oh, we should go and have a look at what Stripe's up to actually. Cool. So, oh, I've got a sweet error. It is an invalid parameter unknown of county. Doesn't like county. Oh, of course, because it's American, right? It wants state. Sorry. So even though I have a British account and I've asked it to handle it like that, it's not in there. And it's postal code. Sorry. Do you know what? I forgot that I also have a city, which we can just pass in with. I do have a city, I think, don't I?
I think you have to change also the the Stripe counterpart with state billing details dot state on 53.
53. No, I've called it county in there.
Oh, okay.
So in my state, it's called county because I'm
All
English.
right.
We don't have states, but yeah, I need to translate it to a state for that. All right, cool. So, but that was a really handy error, which was pretty nice to see. Let's see this. Oh. Oh, maybe I don't have city. Cool. I'll just take it out. Don't want to cause any extra problems. Okay. All right, so here it is. It's returned our payment method. And we've got that thing I need from there, which is our ID. So it looks like it's in payment method ID. So let's take that out. And it's stored in here. payment method.id. Cool. Ooh, was that underscored or not? I can't remember. Let's check. No, it wasn't. Okay, excellent. Cool. So, and now we have all we need. We've got those two things that we needed. We needed our client secret, which we have got stored. I'm going to stop logging it out because that's a bit rude. I've got that stored here, and I've got my payment method ID, which I've got stored here. So now let's put it all together, actually confirm this payment. So let's just, before we do that, let's go and have a look at what happens if we don't confirm the payment. Let's head on over to Stripe and have a look at my payments. And check out all these incomplete things. So all these tests I've been doing, I've been sending things along, and it's started them. It's made that intent, but it's not actually completed it. It's not confirmed it. So this back and forth that we're doing is waiting to actually confirm it and seal the deal, if you like. So all we need to do to confirm it is use our Stripe again. So let's call it confirmation. Sounds legit. Let's call on Stripe. We need to await it. So we're waiting because they're asynchronous. That's the only reason why. And we want to, I believe it's confirm card payment. And it takes in 2 arguments. Takes in that secret. So we've got client secret. And it also needs our, takes an object for this actually, which is going to be our, just going to put it up here so it looks slightly less messy. There we go. And so it needs to take in that ID, but it does take it in the, with a key of payment method. So let's give it payment underscore method. And I stored that in payment method ID. Beautiful. What have I got going on here? Who do you belong to? Who are you? Where did you come from? Oh, of course. Okay. Just bring him in. All right, cool. So let's see if we can log a confirmation. See what kind of information do we get there. Excellent. Oh, sorry. We don't need this here. It's just an initial argument. And what's wrong here? Confirm card payment, client secret, takes an object, payment method ID. What's going on?
Try taking out the curly brace on 71.
On 71. Oh, yes, thank you. Took out the open but not the close. Merci. Should be all good. All right, so now we're logging our confirmation, which, as you can see, has come back as payment intent. So this is what we're aiming for. It's that payment intent that we created initially, but what we're hoping now is it has a status as succeeded. So let's have a look. And yay, status succeeded. Beautiful. Let's go and have a look and see what happens here. And we have success. Beautiful. This is quite nice. It tells us what the error is. So this was all done before we had completed that payment method problem. And now here we have a successful payment, which is awesome. If you click on these, there's a whole bunch of data, which is really very interesting to look through. This is mildly terrifying. But you know, I have, it's automatically passing these. I haven't asked it to do anything. Description, that will be fun to add something. We have now succeeded in making a payment. Um, I'm. How are people feeling? Would you like to take a 5 minute break and come back to finish up what we're doing? Essentially, what we need to do now is acknowledge to our user that this has succeeded. We've done the Stripe part now, and what we need to do now is get this displaying something, something that tells them that. We would also like to do some error handling. So yeah, how are you guys feeling? Should we take a 5 minute break and come back and finish it off for 25 minutes? Or I'm also very happy to record that separately, and we can, I can just post it in the channel. Maybe that's better. Shall I do that?
I'm down for whatever. Like, if you want to just finish it up after a break, or
Yeah. All right.
it's up
Cool.
to you.
So
You're running this thing, so.
all right. I'm gonna let's just let's spend an extra 5 minutes on it now and just do some very basic essentials, and then we'll finish up. So no break. Sorry. There's not too much. So there's not too much left to do. As I said, the Stripe part is done, but we need to acknowledge that for our user. That's because that's a pretty big missing issue here. Okay, so upon confirmation, what can we do? Well, we can tell them it's been successful. So it would be great if I could do something like how should we do this? Okay, so we've got this big button, big old button here. It'd be great if it said something like "thank you." So let's add an extra condition here. So let's say if what should we call it? Successful payment. We can return something else. If there we go. If it's a successful payment, let's just return. For the sake of styling, we'll keep it as a button with an ID of toPayment. And let's just say thank you. That's nice. Okay, so if successful payment, let's set that up. So successful payment, is that how we spell that? Yes, it is. And just for convention, we'll call it set successful payment. And we can just go false. All right, cool. So once everything's done, let's set successful payment true. So at some point, maybe if they hit back or something, maybe we could set it as false again so they can donate more money. That would be fun. But for the now, we can just keep it as this. All right, let's see what happens now. So we're going to make a payment. It should take a little time to confirm. Great. So it took a little time to go through all that business, and then it said thank you. I now can't actually do anything. Maybe we should close that modal as well. So set, I think this is just called set modal open, I think I called it, to false. Let's just check. Modal open status, sorry. Modal open status to false. Cool. I'm going to be raking it in on my fake Stripe. £10 make a big difference. Cool, so it went away. That's nice. And now, let's see. I mean, I think the most important thing now is to let people know what's gone wrong if something does go wrong. So this is a great time to look at their testing cards. Let's just find those Stripe test cards. Beautiful. So if we scroll down here, we can see they've got, okay, so these are basic tests. I've been using this one because it's extremely quick to do, but we can test, it'll tell you different types of card. That's quite fun to see. We can try internationals. We can try this 3D secure stuff. Definitely interesting to have a little play around with. What I'm interested really in though is cards that just aren't true. So let's find, okay, cool. Charge is declined with an incorrect number code as the card fails the loon check. What's that? Cool. I'll definitely won't read that. I will maybe. Okay, so let's test this. Let's see what we get if we 44.1 with anything given to it. All right, so let's refresh this. Ooh, we can set this back to be a bit more realistic. So it's going to start with the middle closed. I give £20. Okay, so that was the same 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40 for 1. Cool, so it's red, interesting, but it does seem to have enabled my confirm payment, so let's just carry on as if I didn't see it. And let's confirm my payment. And it says cannot read property ID of undefined, so something's definitely got wrong, and this is not a very eloquent way of handling this error. This is horrible to see for my user. So it looks like it was in when I was trying to get my payment method. Okay, so let's handle this. It looks like we probably are getting something else back instead of what we expect. So let's log it so we can see what we get back. Oh, sorry. That's not what we wanted to do at all. We already have that. Console log this guy. And let's just return so it doesn't give us a bunch of errors. And inspect. Okay, so we're going to use that number again. 4242, 4241. Let's confirm. Okay, cool. So it's given us an error actually instead. Pretty handy message. Your card number is invalid. That tells me exactly what the issue is here. Okay, so it looks like there's two things we can get back from this thing, either an error or that payment method. So let's get both. As we know, JavaScript doesn't really care if it can't find something. So let's go for, we can either get that payment method or we might get an error. So now we don't need to reference this because we're already in there. And we want to be able to handle, okay, what happens if there's an error? Fine. So if there's an error, let's make an alert. That would be good. So let's, I have an alert banner. I don't think it's in here. Let's bring it in. I have it defined here. Alert banner. This banner takes in a message and a close function, which just closes the alert when we click on it. And all right, let's use it. So I'm also gonna put this in state. So let's make error or set error. Okay, so empty strings are falsy in JavaScript, so we can just keep it as an empty string. And let's here, can't remember where I planned on putting this, but let's, we want to know if there's an error, we want to render that alert banner. So let's do our alert banner, and I said it takes in an error. I intend it to be, did I say message? Message, yes. Message equals, and we'll try and store that in error. Try and extract that out specifically. And then let's give it close, and we'll say it set. We'll get rid of the error, because this is rendering if there's an error. So if I set it to something falsy, we should be good. All right, cool. So that error was coming in, and I think it was just, okay, so that's set error. I think it was just on a message key, I think. And we also want to return, we want to exit out of here because everything else isn't going to work. So we want to make sure we get out. And all right, let's try that. So we're going to do that again. We got an issue. What's wrong? Doesn't like what I... Oh, got like half a function. Doesn't look good, does it? All right, I think that's the only issue. Okay, let's use that 4241 again. Sweet, your card number is invalid. That's a very nice error message from Stripe. Stripe is really good at giving good error messages. So definitely interesting to play around with some of those other ones. In fact, let's do that. So let's grab, how about this one? Declined with an expired card code. So there's also different stages at which these errors could happen. You know, as I said, there's 3 stages in making this Stripe payment. So we need to make sure that we're covered at all levels. So let's try this one. So it's 4,000, all the zeros, and 0069. Let's give that a go. Oh, it'd be nice to actually reset after that as well. If once you've got an error, it'd be good to make it so they can start again. Haven't handled that yet. So 4,000, all the zeros, and 69. Don't think it matters what we give it. And okay, so this is a bit annoying because I've got this error over here. It's not showing me what's going on. So that's definitely interesting. Let's log. So it's clearly not getting caught by what I just set up. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if we console log our confirmation. Confirmation. Okay. And as we might have expected, we get another error. I sailed on anyway to set a successful payment, which isn't good, so we definitely want to catch something like this first. Another very handy message, your card has expired. I've already set an error, so I'm just going to do it slightly differently now. I'm going to say if confirmation.error, then we can actually do the same thing. We could definitely make this a little bit more concise. All right, cool. And then we want to return. What else do we want to do if we see an error? I think we want to, well, regardless of how this happens, let's make it so that, do you know what, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Let's see it first, then we can figure it out. So let's see if that's worked for us. So hopefully this will get put across to our alert banner. Confirm. Ooh, cannot read property message of undefined. Oh, I'm silly. So I said if confirmation.error, but I didn't tell it what error was. So confirmation.error. Da, da, da. Cool. Your card has expired. Indeed. I've still got this error here. That's fun. Oh, I suppose that's from Stripe. Yeah, there we go. We can go and let's go and check that out. Confirm. Yeah. Okay. So that was our failing confirmation. Beautiful. Your card has expired. Okay. So I think there's only a couple things I want to do now. I want to, well, does this work? If I click on it, it goes away. And actually, do you know what? I was thinking about making this enabled again, but if they've given me bad information, I probably don't want to enable it until they've at least made some sort of edit. So as soon as they make an edit, if everything's filled in, I'll leave it disabled and I'll let that update handle that. Cool. Do you know what? There's one other thing that I wanted to do just because I think it's fun. In the, let's get rid of this. I probably won't read it. So it's a weekend. In our payments, we can give it a description. So as you can see, we can edit that here. Great. But let's see if we can update it from here. So something that we might add is it's a donation page, so they might be able to gift aid it. I'm not sure if you guys have gift aid, but it's basically tax relief on these donations. So let's see if we can maybe just tell it. So it would be great if I could see, let's see all these payments. So here's the description. As you can see, as default, it just gives it that ID. But maybe it could say gift aid or non-gift aid, or I'm sure you can think of more interesting things to put here, but let's just try it with that as an example. And where we set that description is actually in that initial payment intent. So we just need to get that data in to our to that first stage. So let's give it a gift aid option. And do you know what? I'm gonna copy that because, as you can see, I'm not having a great day with styling. So let's pop him in. Where makes sense for that? Probably the payment modal. Let's. Yeah, I'd quite like it here in between the total and the details. So here's the total. Let's just throw it here. So there's a couple of things I need in here. I need to be able to check to see if it is gift aid or not. And actually, all I'm going to do for that is I'm just going to keep track of it here. Oh, we're getting a lot here. Wouldn't necessarily recommend doing all of this in your app. And let's say, well, you should assume false. Just as it's definitely not important to know right now, but I've got the default checked is what's tracking. This is like my controlled form version of a checkbox. It's checking default checked, but it does still have that on change, but it's looking at the checked rather than the value. So let's just make sure that does gift aid not defined. All right, I'm not passing it in. Fair enough. So let's and it's going into payment modal. Here you are. Oh gosh, that's a lot of things. It's getting out of hand, guys. Gift aid. Very extremely uninspired names we're getting now. And I think I just called it the same thing actually. Let's check. Did I actually do that? Yes, I did. Okay, cool. All right, so are we getting any errors still? No, and let's make sure that that does update. Let's look at that. Oh, it's not rendered yet. So let's look in that payment modal. It's got this tiny little checkbox, okay, and it should be affecting app. So one of these should toggle one of these. There we go. So if we look at this one down here, it's, that is indeed toggling that. Excellent. So now it's just something I can pass in to that first stage, as I mentioned. So let's find that. It's now ginormous. Handle submit. Stage 1. So I am interested in also passing it. Let's just pass it gift aid. It can handle it on the other end. And that's all we should need to do here. So let's go to that function. And let's receive that as well. So gift aid. And let's give it, so this does need to receive it as description. And we want to give it a different message based on whether it's gift aid or not. So let's say something like description. Let's be a bit lazy. And we can set it to, if gift aid is true, we can say gift aid donation. And if it's not, let's gift aid not available. Okay, so I just called it description, so let's just be lazy and call it that. And yeah, that should be enough. Let's give that a go. So let's leave it unchecked for now. Let's use a card that we know works. Let's confirm the payment. And it went through. And let's refresh this. Can't wait to see my my balance. And it says gift aid not available. Awesome. And then if let's refresh. And let's give much more. And I'm giving more, so I probably pay a bunch of tax. So I probably could gift aid it successfully. And let's give that one. Let's confirm our payment. It says thank you, very polite. And then we get gift aid donation. Awesome. So I think that's I mean, there's endless things you can add here, endless levels of checks and security, and obviously from a user experience point of view, there's plenty I could do to improve this, but it's essentially working as a donation. This is not a live Stripe account. I am not receiving this money from any test cards, and please do anything you are doing on Stripe. Please check it with your tests first before you take it live. Be super careful with your keys if you're on a live account, because we're fiddling with money now, because that's serious. Interesting things to look at around here. Oh, I think balances is quite fun to look. Total $100. I made $100. Fantastic. It's on hold because I haven't given them a US account. I mean, also it's not live, but then it would handle that, which is brilliant. Super easy from this point. And there's lots of things you can add to this. So obviously in my example, I'm just taking money for donations, but if you are sending out orders, you might want to have something which sends a confirmation when the order's been fulfilled, something like that. There's lots of levels you could take this to, but this is a good starting point. So yeah, awesome. Let's wrap up. I'm very happy to stay on until 6 or whatever the hour, what time it is, not your 6 o'clock, please. Up to the hour and field. I'll attempt to field any questions that you may have. But yeah, cool. That's Stripe. That's how you get money out of people on the internet.
Beth, so you said you use this one, this Netlify app you deployed through the GitHub continuous deployment?
Yeah.
So this is on your GitHub too, so we can look at the code?
The start of it is I haven't deployed this yet. What the changes that we've made today, as you see, I've not been committing it or changing anything, but I can do that, and you can take a look at that code. Sure, I can. Awesome. Let me do that now.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, this is super cool. Thanks a lot.
I think I'm pretty impressed with Stripe. I think it's very easy to integrate. Obviously, it's taken us a little while today because we're chatting through it. But if you're sitting and doing it yourself, and you know what you're doing and you're not battling with styling. Oh my goodness. So like silly mistakes as always. Then yes, it's pretty smooth, right? I think it's good, and it is secure. It's I did do a little bit of research into it, and it's got the like top level security that is currently on offer in terms of these kinds of services. So that's which is really important, obviously. All right, let me get this up on GitHub. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of changes with no commits. Okay, end of SG. What date is it today? It is the 11th of April. So that is the year is 20, the month is 04, and it is the 11th. Cool. I'll paste that in there. Let me stop this recording. It's always boring stuff at the end now.